Some men leave footprints on a woman's heart, most leave only dust. You can see it in the way she speaks of them later, not the facts but the feeling. She remembers a steady look, a pause that made room for her, a moment when the rush of everything else fell away. Memory is emotional residue, not a scoreboard. We confuse attraction with transactions. Lines, displays, brief impressiveness. Those are temporary receipts. What endures is how someone rearranged her inner weather. You don't need to perform or prove. Quiet power outlives spectacle every time. Real strength is staying steady when everything around you is frayed. When her life tilts into panic, she isn't asking for bravado. She's asking for a shore that holds. That calm is not boredom. It's the foundation from which real desire grows. Stability, delivered with dignity, feels like safety, and safety breeds trust, which breeds memory. Most men react. They match heat with heat, anxiety with louder anxiety, drama with spectacle. That reflex makes her relive chaos. The man who resists reflexive reactivity becomes notable. His calm is not surrender. It is a stance of control over himself, not over her. The moment you steady your breath, she steadies hers. The atmosphere shifts. She relaxes without words. That shift, the way her shoulders drop, how her voice finds softness, is what people call chemistry, but it's actually consequence. Presence is a craft. It's the decision to show up where it matters. Presence is not availability on tap. It's attention that carries weight because it's genuine. When you offer full attention, you make her feel recognized, not objectified. Seeing someone is different from praising them. It's noticing the small, private things she doesn't claim as proof. A tremor in her laugh, a fierce pride she hides, a quiet fear she would never announce. A man who recognizes those things without fixing or shaming them creates a refuge. Calm without curiosity is stagnation. Be steady and alive. Ask questions that pull depth, not gossip. Challenge kindly. Hold your own opinions and let her hold hers. Keep a part of yourself unexplored, not as a trick, but as an honest remainder of a life not fully handed over. Mystery born from real independence is magnetic. It invites exploration, it does not manipulate. Honor your life. Shame, desperation, frantic appeasement destroy attraction. Self-control, clear priorities, and a visible inner standard make your presence rare. That rarity registers subconsciously. She senses the difference between a man tethered to approval and a man anchored to purpose. So stop broadcasting for attention. Build interior structure. Stand grounded in your own trajectory. Be interesting, not performative. See her without needing her to complete you. When you do this, you won't be chasing presence. You'll be the presence she remembers intentionally. That memory will echo in small choices she makes later, in late-night thoughts, in the songs and quiet moments that catch her unguarded. Over and over. Every woman says she wants security, but what she really craves is emotional safety wrapped in spark. Predictability is different from reliability. If your life moves on rails and every response is rehearsed, desire dulls. Attraction feeds on novelty and the small shocks of life that make her lean forward. Stop thinking unpredictability means games. It means depth. It means living a life that refuses to be fully disclosed at once. Show enough to be real, keep enough to be intriguing. When your pattern is not a flat line, curiosity grows. Curiosity becomes attention. Attention becomes investment. Routine is comfortable. Repetition is quiet poison for desire. The man who always orders the same thing, tells the same joke, offers the same opinion, he becomes wallpaper. But the man who mixes steadiness with unpredictability creates texture. He is both anchor and gust of wind. That contrast pulls her into moments she wants to relive. Surprise her with intention, not manipulation. Do something unexpected because you value life, not to produce a psychological reaction. Take a different route, speak a thought that isn't polished, bring a book that changed your view, challenge a comfortable assumption. These are not tricks. They are signals of a life that continues when she isn't watching. Give her a reason to ask questions about you. Let some answers come late. When she has to learn you over time, she invests without realizing it. Investment is the quiet currency of attachment. You don't force it. You allow it by refusing total transparency. Think of yourself as a novel worth reading in chapters, not a social media bio that's skimmed and forgotten. Confidence doesn't mean you narrate every move. It means you have habits and boundaries that are consistent but not scripted. Your nonchalance about being predictable, your ease with a life that holds private corners, becomes attractive. It signals you're not available for the cheap drama of performance. That scarcity is not about playing with feelings. It's about preserving your inner economy. Challenge her mind. Disagree politely. Introduce a strange idea. Make her defend an opinion she thought was settled. Intellectual friction creates heat. It proves you're present and engaged. Don't be a mirror. Being agreeable all the time makes relation passive. A relationship with texture requires differing densities, areas of agreement and areas that require movement. Spontaneity is not loud. It can be a subtle pivot in tone, a soft shift in intention. It can be a handwritten note, a late-night call that is thoughtful, a plan that arrives as a surprise because your calendar allowed for it. These moments tell her you are not captive to external validation, that you can rearrange your life to include wonder. Let mystery be authentic. Hide nothing out of malice. Keep things out of reverence for your own story. A man who shares everything at once depletes the narrative. A man who reveals himself in layers inspires the instinct to know more. If you balance steadiness with unpredictability, you create a gravity that encourages return visits. She doesn't leave because the scene is dull. She stays because the next chapter feels promising. Desire, like fire, needs both fuel and oxygen, stability and surprise. Wake up with intent. That tells more than a lifetime of promises. You can talk in grand sweeps until your throat is tired, but speech is thin weight. Action stack. Purpose is built one sober choice at a time. Words are easy currency. Action is the deposit. A man who orders his days leaves clues in the way his inbox looks, the projects he refuses to abandon, the people he keeps. Those clues are visible even when you are silent. She reads your schedule, the favors you decline, the courtesy you show to strangers. She measures you by how you respond when systems fail. Purpose reveals itself in tiny economies of attention. You protect what matters. You skip distractions that feel good now and cost you later. You protect a single pursuit until it grows teeth. That pattern signals more than any speech ever could. It says you are not scattered, you are oriented. Ambition is rarely a billboard. It is the repetitive, boring work that most men avoid. It is the extra hour in the studio, the draft rewritten for clarity, the cold call made when excuses multiply. Those steady accumulations become proof. When she watches steady effort, the hollow boasts collapse under weight. Don't make her your project. That is a pressure she didn't sign up for. Carry a life that is already meaningful and offer her a seat. The man who walks toward something outside the relationship communicates abundance, not need. That invites companionship instead of obligation. How you take loss matters more than how loudly you celebrate wins. Men who unravel at setbacks reveal small foundations. Men who absorb failure learn the lesson then move again show architecture. Resilience is silent authority. It reassures more than bravado ever will. Boundaries are indicators, not punishments. Saying yes because you mean it and no because you must creates clarity. Scheduling important things and keeping those bookings signals what you value. A mapped life is easier to trust. Trust is the soil where deeper attachment grows. Stop selling futures. Live present patterns. Replace future tense promises with daily evidence. Consistent morning routines, books read, skills practiced, friendships nurtured. Those visible rhythms tell the story of a man who shows up for himself. That consistency is magnetic. Competence beats ego every time. Show you can finish what you start. Admit when you don't know. Learn faster than you defensively justify. Confidence rooted in competence feels calm, not loud. It draws respect without demanding it. Encourage her growth. A driven man lifts the people around him rather than clipping wings. He wants a partner who thrives independently and still chooses him. Growth should be additive, not competitive. When two trajectories can merge without suffocating, commitment becomes a choice, not a rescue. Purpose should be contagious. Your focus should invite her curiosity, not coerce compliance. She will want to join when your life is compelling on its own terms. In the end, the truth of you is not in the promises you make. It's in the visible arc of work, attention, and consequence you leave behind. That arc tells the story she remembers long after rhetoric fades. She doesn't fall for gifts, she falls for recognition. A box can be opened and forgotten. The way you understand her, the things you name that nobody else bothered to notice, becomes a proof that someone has been awake to her. Notice the small contradictions she wears: confidence folded around doubt, boldness hiding tenderness. Call them out softly. That isn't exposure, it's an invitation to drop the mask. Listening is not waiting to speak. Real listening is a practiced stillness that remembers details later. Bring up a story she mentioned weeks ago. Remember the names she uses for people who matter. Those memory marks tell her you invest attention where most men skim headlines. She will measure you by what you recall, not what you say in the moment. Avoid the reflex to repair. When she shows you an old wound, don't rush to fix it. Presence that soothes without solving is rare. Sit inside the discomfort with her. Let your calm be the frame that holds the feeling without flattening it. That kind of bearing communicates respect for her inner life. Reflect what she doesn't say. Mirror back the emotion behind the facts. If she jokes to hide hurt, note the pause. If she laughs too loud, point to the tenderness under the noise. You aren't interrogating, you're translating. That translation lets her feel understood rather than exposed. Praise substance, not surfaces. Comment on choices, not just clothes. Celebrate the courage she used to speak a truth or the humility that let her admit an error. Compliments that honor depth invite further depth. They say you see beyond presentation and that your valuation is not skin deep. Create environments where she can show the parts she keeps private. Invite conversation about failures and small embarrassments without spectacle. Make vulnerability a routine, not an event. People practice intimacy the way they practice skill. They need permission, repetition, and a non-judgmental field to grow. Avoid comparison traps. Never reduce her to a list of attributes compared to someone else. That minimizes the quirks that make her human. Celebrate complexity. Point out the small habits that reveal her story: how she stacks books, the playlist she returns to, the words she saves for late-night honesty. Those details are currency. Trust builds when you value her agency. Ask before offering solutions. Check in before imposing an opinion. Respecting boundaries signals you see her autonomy as part of her worth. It tells her you want to stand beside an adult, not manage a child. Make silence an ally in seeing. Sometimes the clearest statement of attention is a look that says, "I am here and I am listening." Let your face and posture do the work words often fail to do. Finally, be consistent in vision. Seeing someone once is fleeting. Seeing them persistently, across moods, across success and failure, that's what changes a presence into an anchor. When you see a woman steadily, you become a keeper of her truer self. She remembers that with or without a token in hand. Small daily rituals, the cup you brew, the message on a hard morning, pile up into a presence she instinctively returns to, trusts. Energy is not something you have to advertise, it's something you manage like capital. Spend it where it compounds. Waste it on anxious chasing and you bankrupt attraction. Hold it like a resource and people begin to value its economy. Attention is the coin. Giving it fully makes the moment feel rare. Dividing it thin makes you common. When you listen without planning your next line, when your eyes stay long enough to register detail, your presence gains weight. That weight is remembered. Control isn't coldness. It's choice. You decide what deserves an emotional deposit and what doesn't. Not every slight needs a reaction. Not every drama requires escalation. Choosing silence or a measured response demonstrates internal authority. That posture quiets chaos. Calm energy invites honesty. Panic invites performance. When your baseline is steady, people relax into realness around you. That authenticity feeds connection more than any tactic. Steady presence equals emotional safety. Don't confuse scarcity with scarcity theater. Being controlled with your attention isn't manipulation, it's self-respect. If your life is organized and your time intentional, you naturally have less available space for low-value noise. That absence raises your signal not because you punish but because you prioritize. Volume rarely equals value. Speak with precision. Move with intention. Micro-choices matter. How you breathe when a conversation heats, how you place your hand at rest, how you sit when they speak. Those habits communicate steadiness without grand declarations. Refuse reactive patterns. Most men mirror turbulence because it feels urgent. Instead, practice a humble lag. Pause, assimilate, answer. That recalibration often changes the course of conflict. It turns confrontation into clarification. Energy control needs rituals. Sleep, movement, quiet time, work blocks. These anchors refill you. Men who neglect recovery hand over composure to circumstance. Build margins. Protect them. A man who guards his battery keeps calm accessible. Presence is not perpetual availability. Show up deeply when you choose to show up. Let your availability be meaningful. Cancel with reason and care. When you appear, be all there. Partial presence is more damaging than absence. Generosity should be deliberate, not reflexive. Give attention where it aligns with your values. This makes giving sustainable. It keeps you from exhausting yourself by solving others' unrest before they can handle it. Demeanor beats rhetoric. Confidence that grows from competence feels stable. Nervous displays of power, loud cars, louder statements, announce insecurity. Quiet competence attracts because it signals practice, not presentation. Practice emotional labeling for yourself. When irritation rises, name it privately. When jealousy surfaces, trace its origin. Self-awareness lets you choose the next move rather than be carried by mood. That choice is magnetic. Touch and stillness are tools. A grounded hand, an unhurried look, a patient shoulder. These carry more message than casual words. Use them to communicate solidity, not control. Boundaries preserve energy. Say no without guilt. Delegate tasks that drain you. If someone repeatedly demands what you cannot give, recalibrate closeness. Respect for your limits reinforces respect from others. Mastery of energy is a craft, not a stunt. It refines character and makes presence rare. When you steward your energy well, attraction follows as a natural consequence. Routine fuels focus. Curiosity keeps you sharp and present. Authority begins inside long before anyone sees you. Leading yourself is less about commands and more about choices that accumulate. You set an internal standard and live by it, every small decision knitting a visible spine. Consistency speaks louder than a single grand gesture. Own your mornings. The first hour drafts the rhythm of the whole day. Discipline is not punishment, it's a contract you keep with yourself. Break it and your credibility frays slowly, quietly, in ways others notice. Choose what you will carry. Decisions carve character. Select a handful of principles and refuse to trade them for convenience or applause. Integrity is simple. Do what you said you would do when no one is watching. Those unpaid promises to yourself compound into trust. Temper emotion with principle. Strong feelings arrive. Acting on every surge is optional. Train the space between stimulus and reply. That split second is the hinge of real control. Use it to see clearly instead of exploding. Rituals build muscle. Small daily acts. Tidy your space, move deliberately, read before screens, keep you anchored when life pushes. They make commitment visible even on low-energy days. Keep promises to yourself first. Canceling your own plans weakens your follow-through. Treat your word privately as sacred. That discipline transmits outward. People learn quickly what you value. Confront excuses. They are a slow tax on potential. Question comforts that cost future options. Small concessions compound into a lack of backbone faster than you think. Design a modest code of conduct and stick to it. Rules are support beams, not cages. When you slow down reactions to petty pushes, you raise the tone of every room you enter. Own your mistakes plainly. Repair what you break without drama. Evading responsibility shrinks trust. Owning errors with humility enlarges it. Choose growth over ease. Growth asks for boring, repetitive work that most men skip. Do the repetition anyway. Competence arrives that others applaud quietly. Quiet skill beats flashy claims. Protect margins. A life stretched thin hands control to urgency. Reserve time for solitude and recovery. Reflection refines judgment. Rest sharpens resolve. A man who runs on fumes hands his composure to circumstance. Model the standards you want to attract. If you expect discipline, demonstrate it. If you want curiosity, show curiosity. People mirror what they observe. Live the practice and you summon like-minded presence. Mind your language. Speak in commitments, not soft hedges. Reduce qualifiers. Precision in speech tightens the path to action. When you say, "I will," treat it as a plan already in motion. Practice selective generosity. Give energy where it aligns with your values, not as a reflex to soothe your ego. Sustainable giving preserves strength and authenticity. Train patience as a skill. Let slow decisions have the final say on matters that matter. Patience shields you from impulsive alliances that erode long-term gains. Prioritize inner sovereignty over applause. A man rooted in purpose needs less approval to act. He follows an internal map, not crowd noise. That quiet direction draws others without demand. Lead yourself first and the rest becomes easier. You become the standard people want to stand beside, not a man they need to prop up, with clarity. Lead yourself before you ask anyone to follow. Leadership starts in the small, unglamorous choices you make when no one watches. You set an internal benchmark and then live up to it, day after day. That steady sequence of choices becomes visible in how you manage your time, handle friction, and keep promises. When pressure hits, the real test begins. Most people perform or panic. A man who leads himself breathes first and chooses next. He prioritizes discernment over drama. That momentary pause changes outcomes more often than bravado ever could. Self-leadership is ownership of mood and action. Name the feeling, then act through it instead of from it. Let frustration inform strategy, not fuel reaction. Learning to translate emotion into a plan is how stability is born. You can't outsource your center. Practices matter. Morning rituals, consistent work habits, and small routines that reinforce your character. Build structures that support calm. Treat discipline like infrastructure, quiet, necessary, unglamorous, and your life runs on the backbone you construct. Respect flows from competence. If you can manage your commitments and recover from setbacks, others will trust your steady hand. Respect is a sum of follow-throughs, not a single heroic moment. Show up consistently and your credibility multiplies. Decisions reveal priorities. Choose deliberately. Indecision signals drift. Choose rapidly for small matters and slowly for the big ones. That method keeps momentum without sacrificing care. People learn to rely on predictable judgment. Avoid emotional capitulation. Tests will come, provocations, pressure, wounds reopened. Respond with clarity, not with reflex. When you separate the problem from the person, you solve easier. When you defend your center, you invite collaboration instead of chaos. Accountability is non-negotiable. Admit failure plainly and act to repair it. Excuses fracture trust. Corrections rebuild it. Owning mistakes with speed and humility flips a weakness into a pillar of reliability. Guard your speech. Words that drift from reality erode authority. Speak plainly, promise sparingly, and declaim less. Use speech to clarify motion, not to disguise one. People follow lines of intention more than they follow rhetoric. Led by example, not demand. Model the habits you want to attract. If you value hard work, be visible doing it. If you value reflection, make time for it publicly. Others mirror what you embody, not what you preach. Keep your circle efficient. Surround yourself with people who elevate standards rather than dilute them. Relationships are vectors. Choose ones that increase your velocity. Distance yourself from chronic complainers and energy drains. Practice detachment with purpose. Hold your attachments lightly and your responsibilities firmly. That balance frees you to act from choice instead of compulsion. It sustains leadership when stakes rise. Teach through consistency. Show her how to recover, how to stand, how to repair. Your steadiness becomes instruction without a lecture. People learn resilience by watching it in practice. Finally, lead toward a life worth following. Your internal rules should point to growth, not control. When your direction is clear and your behavior predictable in its values, You become the rare man who inspires trust, not need. Build that inner gravity and watch respect naturally accumulate. Silence is not absence. It's a powerful presence that speaks with weight. In the quiet, intentions show up uncluttered. Your body, your breath, the cadence of your pause, all of that becomes the conversation. Most men fear empty space and rush to fill it. They mistake noise for connection. But steady quiet pulls attention inward. It lets the other person land inside the room with you instead of skimming its surface. Practice being comfortably unbusy. Sit without a phone, without a script. Let your eyes soften instead of scanning for exits. That ease signals safety more clearly than any rehearsed compliment. Stillness clarifies feelings. Under pressure, words blur. When you hold quiet, emotions rearrange themselves. Anger cools faster. Shame loses its edge. Real talk surfaces without the theatrics. Make pauses intentional. A pause can underline a point more effectively than a dozen words. Use them to create space for honesty. When you let the silence sit, she often steps into it with truth she wasn't ready to speak aloud before. Calm attention is a kind of listening that doesn't need translation. Face her. Keep your posture open. Let your hands rest. Small physical steadiness communicates a deeper steadiness of character. Don't use silence as a weapon. Cold shoulder tactics hollow out trust. Your quiet should welcome, not withhold. The difference is in tone. Steady neutrality invites closeness. Punitive silence builds distance. Learn to time your interruptions. If she's collecting the courage to speak, resist finishing her sentence. Let her find the words. Your restraint becomes a container for vulnerability to grow. Shared quiet can be intimate without being sexual. Sitting together in a room, each occupied with different tasks yet present to each other, registers as partnership. Those minimal shared moments build a rhythm that outlasts dramatic gestures. Observe the quality of your silence. Is it restless or restful? Restless silence betrays anxiety. Restful silence suggests confidence. Train yourself to hold restful quiet, even when the conversation is raw. Use silence as a bridge after conflict. Words traded in heat rarely settle anything. After tension, a measured pause shows you're willing to move from reaction to resolution. It signals you're processing, not plotting. Silence sharpens perception. In stillness you notice the small shifts. The hitch in her voice, the way her fingers play with a ring, the moment her gaze drops. Those details matter. They tell you where to meet her next. Teach her you can tolerate complexity without collapsing. Not every awkward moment needs an immediate solution. Sometimes the most courageous act is to stay present while discomfort exists. That steadiness models resilience. Practice quiet rituals that say, I'm here. A silent cup of tea offered across a table. A hand placed lightly on a back while you both look out a window. A breath taken together before speaking. Rituals make silence feel like choice, not avoidance. Conversation will follow. Silence is not the end of connection. It's the doorway to something truer. When you master the art of being with someone without the crutch of words, you create a kind of magnetism that lasts. The goal is not to be mysterious forever. It's to be reliably unflappable. That quality makes your presence memorable. It tells her you are someone she can bring her whole self to in both noise and hush. Before she can name it, she registers something true about you. Attention lands, it leaves a trace. Tone, timing, and the steadiness behind your eyes register faster than explanation. She senses whether your life pulls one direction or wanders in scattered arcs. Micromovements betray intent long before declarations do. How you stand in a noisy room tells a story louder than 1,000 promises. Confidence shows in relaxed shoulders, steady breathing, and a voice that does not rush. Authenticity surfaces in small, repeated acts, not in rare theatrical displays. People read congruence. When your words match your rhythms, trust opens organically. The energy you carry is a weather system. People adapt to it without naming the forecast. Practices create that energy. Habits repeated, boundaries kept, and mornings ordered. When your internal life is coherent, your exterior becomes legible. Legibility breeds effortless credibility. She notices the little consistencies. The way you return messages when you said you would, the rituals that keep you centered. Private discipline makes public calm possible. Stability is not dramatic, it is boring in the best way. Boredom here is safety. Safety invites closeness. Don't confuse surface charm with backbone. Surface charm entertains the moment. Backbone keeps the long arc. Emotional maturity shows in the capacity to hold complexity without being pulled apart by it. That capacity is quieter than rage and steadier than impulse. She reads that capacity like a tide. Your gaze can be a map. Small, sincere gestures land heavier than ostentation. A steady laugh at the right moments communicates comfort and control. Silence used well reveals depth. Words used well reveal judgment. Be someone whose actions answer the questions you haven't been asked. Let your life provide explanations without press releases. Resilience is the quiet echo of kept commitments. The way you recover from setbacks signals structure and resource. Composure in the aftermath of loss tells her you are capable of repair. Clarity about priorities makes choices predictable, even when outcomes vary. Predictable values feel like a compass she can trust to navigate alongside. Novelty without roots becomes spectacle. Roots without novelty become stagnation. Balance those poles and you become both safe and alive. Presence that is earned doesn't need marking. It registers naturally. Habits that replenish you prevent offstage collapse. Guardrails matter. Sleep, solitude, focused work, movement, and curated company. Absent these, charisma degrades into anxious displays. Embodied calm is attractive because it is rare. Teach yourself to notice first. Observe the mood in a room before you alter it. Adjust your tone to meet reality, not to control it. Listening with intention creates openings she can step into without armor. When your behavior is consistent, she learns your vocabulary of care. That vocabulary is made of small, repeatable acts, not grand, exhausting efforts. Over time, the accumulation of those acts makes you feel inevitable in her life. Not because you forced it but because you made the environment one she prefers. Act in ways that assume integrity is basic. Be the man whose energy answers the question, is this safe to invest in? That presence alters choices. That is the question she asks before she ever forms words about you. Begin by accepting a simple fact. Attraction follows substance, not spectacle. People grow tired of performances. They remember character. If you want to be the man women return to in memory and choice, focus on the qualities that outlast theater. Build internal infrastructure, habits, standards, and visible routines that make your presence reliable under pressure. Reliability breeds trust, and trust is the currency of meaningful connection. Stop trading identity for approval. When your self-worth depends on applause, your behavior fragments. Stand for a handful of non-negotiables instead. Let those values guide daily motion. Acting from a centered axis attracts because it signals you are not contingent on others for validation. Be available emotionally without being consumed. Offer depth but keep a life beyond the relationship. A person who has a compelling world of their own is naturally magnetic because they invite partnership, not dependency. Women are drawn to companionship that complements, not completes. Cultivate clarity of purpose. Show visible direction in your projects and decisions. When your calendar bears evidence of invested time, it verifies intent. Evidence beats promise. Demonstrable progress on meaningful aims tells her you move toward something larger than fleeting desire. Practice steady courage. Speak truthfully even when it risks discomfort. Admit limits and ask for counsel when that is necessary. Humility coupled with backbone is potent. It reveals a man comfortable in his skin who can both lead and submit when the situation demands it. Value presence over performance. Opt for deep listening, for attention that lingers, for touch that steadies. These small, deliberate acts compound into a sense of safety and worth. She remembers how she felt with you more than what you gave. Preserve mystery deliberately and honestly. Share pieces of yourself in layers. Let time unfold your story instead of publishing it all at once. This pacing creates an unfolding interest rather than immediate satiation. Curiosity sustained over time becomes attachment. Hold standards and show empathy simultaneously. Standards without compassion are cruelty. Compassion without standards is chaos. Balance both and you become someone who elevates rather than accommodates. That tension, firm but fair, becomes the framework of respect. Manage your energy like a leader manages resources. Recover well. Schedule solitude and restoration. Work with focus. Show up fully when you commit. Presence that is disciplined is rare and therefore desired. Practice silence as much as speech. Know when not to correct, when to hold space, when to offer a steady gaze instead of a solution. Silence, used well, deepens trust and dissolves the frantic need to impress. Finally, accept responsibility for your growth. Nobody else is obligated to complete you. Seek mentorship, read widely, and test your limits daily. Growth that is persistent and visible converts attraction into admiration and admiration into long-term devotion. Be the man whose life accumulates integrity. That is how you create a presence women recognize and choose again and again. Anchor your relationships in practice, not promises. Small, consistent rituals, showing up on hard days, speaking less and acting more, keeping your word, build a gravity that resists time. When your life is reliably built, attraction becomes inevitable because you are, plainly, a man worth returning to again and always. If this message hits something real inside you, don't just scroll, subscribe. Join the men rebuilding their power, mastering emotion, and becoming the kind of presence a woman never forgets. Your evolution starts here. Hit that subscribe button and step into your next level.